Hey guys, today I'll be going over how to beat Hoolay in 3.2's Apocalyptic Shadow, with a brief update on Skaracabaz as well. Here's a quick overview of what I'll be going over. Feel free to skip to whatever sections you need using the timestamps in the description. The slideshow is also linked down there too, along with the usual spreadsheet recording sample clears from me and others. If you'd like to share your clear and have it preserved for others to see, there's also a Google form next to it where you can input your teams. Also, I'll only provide some brief updates on Skaracabaz since I already covered them at length in 3.0, so if you want more info on how to beat them, check out their tutorial in the description. As you might expect, this round of AS buffs most heavily favors the newest units, between the skill and Memo Strike skill damage boost, as well as the full heal on break. Team-wide advance on break is back though, so that's pretty cool. Sustainless teams should also do well if you have the right teams for them. As for the stage-specific buffs, on Skaracabaz's side, Knowledge and Decorum is of course catered towards erudition units. The fact that it buffs Res Pen instead of attack now though, means that Rappa can properly capitalize off of it. The semi-reliable 50% F-Res buff is still here for general teams, and the fact that it buffs ult damage instead of physical damage makes it even more widely beneficial. Since Argenti and Yun Li mainly rely on ult damage anyways, this buff is almost a strict upgrade from its 3.0 counterpart. No turning back, of course, is meant solely for Maide and Casterus. You aren't bringing Blade, Firefly, or Arlen here, I hope, and sadly Jing Liu and Jay can't meet his conditions. As for Hoolay's side, Sweeping Storm is the most general buff, but with 70 Toughness Wolves, you probably aren't breaking enemies often enough outside of break teams to reliably count on the 20% speed boost. Withered Tree's Revival is the Casterus buff, and while Blade can use it, it only helps his survivability, not his damage. In fact, the last buff, Pursue and Eliminate, might be better for him since it actually boosts his follow-up attack damage. That being said, follow-up attack characters like Fei Xiao and counter characters like Yun Li appreciate the 30 to 60% follow-up damage boost much more. Quickly covering Skaracabaz changes, it's roughly a 22% HP increase across the board. Skaracabaz himself has gained 720k extra HP, but perhaps more annoyingly, the Nostings have gained 70k HP each, making them even more of an AoE damage check than they were the first time. This is probably to balance the fact that all three new Chrysos heirs absolutely destroy Skaracabaz, but it is still annoying for everyone else. To explain, Tribu's powerful follow-ups, Quantum Sub DPS, and AoE synergy make her the top tier Skaracabaz support. Maide's Taunt and CC Immunity completely counter Skaracabaz's Entanglement, and combined with the HP related buffs, he becomes the easiest sustainless DPS to use and an auto win versus them. Casterus also has enough AoE nuke damage to explode the bugs, plus bounce toughness and damage to strike Skaracabaz, and she and her ideal teammates can easily summon more stings before Netherwing swoops in to finish them off. Interestingly, the Nosting's minor heal on kill, in addition to the full heal on break, makes her global passive way more relevant for the stage. As for Hoolay, the best DPS to use versus him are fast toughness shredders that can go toe-to-toe in a 1v1. While optional, the golden speed benchmark to reach is 250 speed in battle to abuse going solo mechanics the best, which only Firefly can reach naturally while matching weakness at 158.8 speed before battle. The 250 speed benchmark lowers to 187.5 with Eagle, or about 167.5 after the break buff's 20% speed boost, which is much more attainable on any break team with Ron Mei. Fei Xiao can use back-to-back Eagle procs instead, with Hunt March as a flexible teammate, and while Silo's 20% advance forward on basic makes her a tempting choice to duel Hoolay, she prefers to stick to wolf-killing duty instead. For slower toughness shredders, Casterus is able of straight-up annihilating Hoolay between her and Netherwing, and the ability to action advance Netherwing is also very useful. Xue's follow-ups and high toughness damage also make her a good breaker option if your DPS options are limited, especially with all enemies being quantum weak. Counter DPS like Yun Li, Clara, and Blade come with innate survivability to duel Hoolay, and of course, his turns become their turns. Because the wolves are imaginary weak, there are also teams that have found success running Maide with casters teams, sometimes even running support casters and main DPS Maide, even just having main DPS Maide without casters too, as well as having Rappa dual DPS with their fellow 5-star breakers. An honorable mention to Win Dan Heng as well, since the extra turn when killing with ult at E4 makes him a good wolf killer and a usable hyper carry. With a huge single target toughness bar to take care of, weakness break efficiency is the name of the game, and Ron Mei excels at this. Robin and Tribu provide massive attack and HP pools respectively for whoever isn't going solo, and Robin's ult can even be timed to give your team an extra turn to kill wolves before going solo triggers. Tribu is strong as usual for her universal buffs, sub DPS and DDD potential, and Tingyun is her usual DDD bot plus energy spam self, if a bit more niche. More turns to kill more wolves is also very important, and RMC, Sunday, and Bronya all do an excellent job at providing this. Fugue, especially with her E1, is a must-have for break teams, with Harmony MC being just behind. And finally, high single target toughness supports like Asta, Silverwolf, and Topaz have potential to duel and break Hoolay, though you'll probably need to build them tanky if you want to use them for that purpose. Sparkle, Jiaoqiu, and Pella are also good generalists, but compared to the rest of the roster, I don't think their niches are relevant enough here to earn more than an honorable mention. As for sustains, the AS heal on break buff, plus the self-healing during Hoolay's duel based on number of wolves killed, makes sustain lists very much possible. Combined with the lack of CC in this stage, the value of a sustain plummets even more. Even Castris, who normally needs a sustain due to her ravenous healing requirements, can speedrun this stage without one. Lingsha and Gallagher, though, have the ability to effectively 1v1 and break Hoolay, making them valuable instead for their insanely high toughness damage. Besides them, you want HP or attack statistics to better use up your DPS during Hoolay's duel. Luocha works well for casters teams, and his attack scaling can make him good to pair with attack scaling DPS too. Otherwise, Huohuo, Bailu, and Fuxuan offer the same relative value across most teams, unless your niche values Huohuo's healing and energy, Bailu's healing and damage reduction, or Fuxuan's crit rate buff more. Lynx and Natasha can also act as budget options. While going solo duelists share HP and attack with a team, defense is unfortunately not shared, making shielders less useful in this fight, and unless you're Fire MC, who struggles really hard with AoE sustain, you'll be off element versus Hoolay, making them unable to break him and thus bad going solo candidates. Alright, let's actually get into Hoolay himself. Hoolay, known here as Fulminating Wolflord, has a relatively low 2.42 million HP per phase, and is weak to physical, fire, quantum, and wind, with 40% rest to other elements. He's also quite fast at 211.2 speed, and has a respectable 340 toughness. Notably, his toughness is locked outside of going solo, but that shouldn't be an issue given how his mechanics work. He has 40% F-res paired with 75% CC res, so don't count on CCing him. Hoolay also spawns 2 Wolf Troopers out at a time, and each spawn has a 50% chance to be either a Sableclaw or an Eclipse Wolf Trooper. Both types of wolves have a staggeringly low 89.4k HP, with shared weaknesses to Quantum Wind and Imaginary, the Sableclaw being uniquely fire weak and the Eclipse being physical weak. However, they share Hoolay's 40% rest to other elements instead of the usual 20%, and have an insanely high 70 toughness given their low HP. Their speed is 158.4 though, making their attacks largely irrelevant due to being slower than Hoolay. However, even though the wolves pose little offensive threat, you'll want to focus them ASAP in order to reduce Hoolay's toughness and max HP, gain buffs such as healing and toughness reduction, and trigger going solo to unlock Hoolay's toughness faster. As mentioned before, high speed and action advanced characters do this the best. If you need a bit more time to kill more wolves before Hoolay's going solo, keep in mind that this action stems from him advancing forward to 0 AV, meaning that you can still cut ahead of him with properly timed advance forwards and ultimates. Survival tips essentially boil down to building lots of HP on your team, and defense on your going solo target if needed, as well as killing wolves ASAP for access to bigger and faster heals. Taking a look at Hoolay's attack patterns, they're actually quite simple. In phase 1, he always rotates between 2 turns. Turn 1 always has him perform Broken Blades' Fang, a single target attack for about 1100 damage, followed by Severed Iron Claws, a blast attack for 850 to the center target and 550 to the sides. Turn 2 has him perform the same Broken Blades, followed by Decimation of Roaring Storms, a 900 damage AoE. As for his wolves, Sable Claws always deal blast attacks for 650 to all targets, while Eclipses always deal single target attacks for 950. Phase 2 is even simpler, with Hoolay performing 2 AoE attacks every turn. The first is Barrenness of Earth's Gouge, which deals 800 damage and also kills all wolves. Because the wolves are slower than Hoolay, this means that they will never get to attack during Phase 2. This is followed up by Decimation's usual 900. Compared to his MOC counterpart, all of his debuffs have been removed. The bleed on Sable Claws, Hoolay's Terror Grip, and even Hoolay's action delay on Barrenness all don't exist here. This fight is purely about damage and survival. Of course, Hoolay has one additional mechanic besides a straightforward attack pattern. Whenever the total number of enemy attacks and wolf kills reaches 5, Hoolay stops whatever he is doing, and his next action immediately triggers going solo at 0 AV. Note that every additional kill right before going solo will cause him to climb back up to the top of the action order. Upon using Going Solo, he prompts you, the player, to select one character to duel with him. This duelist always gains 2 SP, and their max HP and attack become the total of the entire team's max HP and attack for the duration of the duel. Note that they stay at whatever % max HP they were before the duel. So for example, if the duelist was at 50% max HP before the duel, and their max HP increases to 10,000, their new current HP will become 5,000. They will also gain 2 different bonuses based on how many Blood Surge stacks they have, which is equal to how many wolves were killed before Hoolay's duel. For each stack of Blood Surge, they will heal 15% max HP, and any attacks that reduce Toughness will deal an extra 5/3 or about 1.67 Toughness damage per attack. Since Blood Surge stacks up to 5 times, this means up to a 75% max HP heal, plus an extra 25/3 or 8.33 Toughness per attack. Keep in mind that this Toughness value is enhanced by Weakness Break Efficiency. The bug that disabled this Weakness Break Efficiency boost for fire characters was fixed on day 1. All current Blood Surge also gets converted into Rising War Spirits, raising the Duelist break effect by 5% and damage by 5% per stack permanently for the rest of the match, stacking up to 5 times. All of this is to help prepare them fight against Hoolay, because well, solo Hoolay deals 4 times more damage, takes 4 times less damage, acts 4 times total, and each attack after the first always happens 40 AV later. Truly a deadly force of nature. Interestingly, right after Hoolay attacks, he immediately forces the DPS and summon to take a turn, just like a 250 speed Sunday, so if you can somehow outspeed him like I mentioned earlier, you basically take double the turns for the same AV. Okay, so to give a perspective on how hard Hoolay hits in Going Solo, his first attack, which immediately triggers after selecting your duelist, does a manageable 3.9k HP. His second attack does 6.1k HP, or 11k total in Phase 2. His third attack does 5.2k HP, or 10.4k total in Phase 2. And his final attack always does 10.4k HP. Even with the massive max HP buff, if you don't kill enough wolves before going solo, your duelist is dead meat. Alright, so with all that in mind, exactly how much do we need to do to break Hoolay? Well, considering that Hoolay has 340 toughness and each wolf kill deals 30 toughness, we need a maximum of 12 wolf kills to break Hoolay. Of course, we can also damage Hoolay's toughness in going solo, and most competent teams will be able to kill either 3 or 5 wolves before he triggers it. Listed below are some common toughness damage values, assuming an extra 25/3 toughness per attack from the max 5 wolf kills, plus Ranmei's 50% weakness break efficiency. Keep in mind that if your DPS can hit 250 plus effective speed for the first turn, your second and third turns will be at about the same AV, letting you get 3 turns for the price of 2. And finally, my overall thoughts on this AS rotation. The full heal plus action forward buff on break makes the stainless runs and 0 cycles, respectively, much more favorable. Even more so if you're running 3.0 units. Unlike last AS where both bosses were mechanic checks, only Hoolay feels like a proper mechanic check, especially because Gallagher and Shay get to shine this fight, and Ranmei is free now, while Skaracabaz and his HP sponge stings make a return with even more bulk. That being said, I think that, unsurprisingly, this boss rotation is specifically tailored to upsell all 3 rate-up units, as well as the recent banners. Chao paired with Akron and Maide work especially well versus Skaracabaz. Fugue wants her E1 to make breaking Hoolay easier, especially with 70 toughness mobs that Firefly can't normally one-shot. Even at E0 though, her double stacks for Boot Hill and Exo toughness breaks not being affected by AS's damage reduction are extremely valuable versus this fight. And well, casters and Tribi absolutely destroy both sides. The action forward buff on break also provides more value to Tribi's S1 over DDD, though this is less of an anti-DDD move and more about how DDD's value changes based on the environment. In more refreshing news, Ranmei seems to be back as the Queen of Apocalyptic Shoutout after being dethroned for a total of 1 unfavorable AS rotation. It seems like Hoyo isn't entirely ready to move away from AS being a break-focused game mode, even if the break archetype is becoming more expensive over time. And speaking of expensive, it sure would be nice to see an AS clear without limited 5 stars, but considering how oppressive Skaracabaz is for 4-star only clears, I'm not counting on it. Hope this guide helped or you found it interesting. Good luck with your clears if you need it, and have a great day!